guys, I'm back again, this time with John Maxey and Drew Baltrus. I don't think you guys are related. I don't think you're both Maxeys, are you?
No, we're not both Maxeys.
So what is your relationship, actually, as a matter of fact? I know you ran John, but what is your relationship to him?
I served as his campaign manager. I was John's good friend going through Norristown. We both graduated from here. I graduated a year before John, but we kind of came together one night and said, you know, he's going to run for school board. And that's kind of where it all began. We were eating burritos and decided that's what we were going to do.
Yep.
So is it just something that you were like, I'm bored, I'm eating a burrito, I need something more interesting to do? Or is this kind of more of a thought-out decision than that?
We'll give a shout out to Honest Tom's out in
University City.
Yeah, University City. We were there that one night, and we were, just eating dinner, hanging out, and this is something I've thought about before. Running for office, at a young age has always been a goal of mine. So I sort of floated it to Drew, and he immediately pounced on it, and he wanted to run with it, and I was sort of cautious at first, but I was on board, not long after. So that's how it started, and then things quickly developed from there.
Right. So what is a campaign manager for those viewers who don't know?
At the local level, I'd say it's very hands-on. So, I mean, you hear like people's campaign managers at the national level, like they're on TV, they're scheduling things and stuff, but at the local level, you're kind of working directly with the candidate, and we were knocking on doors. We knocked on thousands of doors. We got out the vote real hard, and we were contacting like the newspaper, other outlets. I mean, I got them on Fox 29.
We're working hand in hand along the way, but the candidate and campaign manager sort of is a different set of roles. I have to be focused on some other things at sometimes, and Drew is focused on things that I can't always be attentive to. Scheduling interviews for me, that's something that he was really good at, and things like data collection, and organizing what voters we needed to talk to. That's stuff the campaign manager needs to focus on at the local level, especially when you're running a campaign like ours. We didn't have any party support behind us, so it literally was just us two, and we definitely had some other people behind us, but it started with just us two, so he had to do a lot.
Right, exactly. So people know that you ran for school board. I'm not sure we said that or not, but you ran for school board. So as someone who kind of just knows, the school board passes things, but isn't sure exactly what or who is a part of the school board, can you tell us more about it?
So yeah, the school board is your governing body of a school district. There's 9 members in Norristown. Every 2 years it alternates. There's either 5 members that are up for election or 4 seats that are up. This year there were 4 seats, and we were vying for one of them. And so your school board, they're in charge of establishing policy for your district. They're in charge of hiring your superintendent, tracking your superintendent. They're in charge of tracking your teachers, tracking your students. Just almost everything, involved in the district, it's first coming to them, and then it goes off to other parts, then it's dealt with by administration, but they're your main governing body because they're your elected officials. There were 4 seats up this year. We were vying for one of them. 3 incumbents ran, and 7 other candidates who are not incumbents also ran.
Awesome. So what do you feel our school board's sort of goal is right now, their mindset? What are they focusing the most on? And does that differ from what you're focusing on?
Yes to the latter. Right now we're in budget season. The budget has to be adopted this coming Monday, actually, at the board meeting. That doesn't mean it's approved, but it has to be adopted. And then it will have to be voted on in June. So they are in the deep of it right now. So a lot of people know we face a lot of financial difficulties and challenges in our district. We don't get adequate funding from our state and federal government. And then we also engage in a lot of frivolous spending on the local level here.
Right.
So they face a lot of challenges. So they're really trying to figure that out right now. They're looking closely with their administrative team and figuring out where they can make cuts. They recently proposed to cut 11.5 teachers here at the high school.
Right.
So going back to your second question, that's their goal right now. Their goals when they're not involved with the budget to me, are sort of unclear. Our school districts, our school board doesn't always like to be too transparent in what they're trying to do and what they hope to accomplish, which is not good because it leaves your employees and your students and your citizens in the dark who then don't know what's going on. So we have a different set of goals and hopes if we were to be elected to the board, starting with that transparency, but definitely leading to other things.
Yeah. So do you feel that our current school board is a good representation of the district?
Well, I have to ask, along what line would you mean? Racially, economically, socioeconomically?
Any that you'd like to touch
So,
upon?
yeah, I would say, so the Hispanic Latino population is the majority in our district. Yet there's not a single Hispanic or Latino, or Latinx, I'm sorry, member on the school board. To me, that's problematic.
Right.
I would definitely like to see someone who is a part of that community on our board, since they do make up the majority. But then I guess I could also talk about, if they understand our students or not. Are they representative of our students? And I don't think they are. I wholeheartedly do not think they are. They do not spend enough time in our schools to understand what's actually happening in our schools and what our students need and want. And, a lot of them are operating under the same mindset that they've been operating for the past few decades. We have
Right.
a few members on there that have been on there for over a decade,
Yes.
15 years one member has. So that's dangerous. That's very dangerous because if you're not paying attention and you're not adapting, it can lead to a lot of problems.
Right. And do you feel that you two, as Norristown alum, recent Norristown alum, can bring that new,
Yep.
fresh ideas to the table?
Yep. I'm sure Drew will want to jump on this too, but that's been our whole message. We want to bring a fresh voice to the board. Starting with not only it's a new person coming into the board, but it's also someone who just graduated last year, a former student. Who better understands what's happening in the schools than someone who just went through them? I graduated from the high school last year, and I spent all 13 years of my public education in the Norristown Area School District. So I have a very realistic idea of what is working in our district and what is not, what needs to be improved and what we can, carry on. But I also have been exposed to other things. My sister also went through the school district for 13 years, and now she works for the ESAC, which is the school district's after-school program. My mother's worked in the school district for 14 years, so I've got to hear a lot. Not only see firsthand, but I also got to hear a lot from other resources. Being close to a lot of faculty and staff in the school district has helped strengthen my picture of, what's happening in our school district. But yeah, we have a very, very, very clear idea of the current state of affairs in the Norristown Area School District, and it would be very valuable to bring that voice to the school board.
Yeah, and going off that completely, one of the main issues I see is the lack of diversity of opinion on the school board.
Yes.
Oftentimes, the public may not know this, and this is part of the transparency issue, but oftentimes decisions are made behind closed doors, so you'll see that things pass, and the fact that the limited knowledge you have of the school board is that they just pass things because that is simply what they do, and we see that as a major problem, is that there's rarely questions brought up to what's being proposed.
Right.
And we think that's a real issue, and the lack of diversity of opinion, John can really break that up and bring a new image to the school board, a new message, and a new understanding of things in a different way. And that, can help with budget issues, can really help with curriculum issues, with community support. He's seen and grown at how the community support has changed over the time he's been here. I've seen it as well, and I think that, bringing that to the board allows, there have been people that have been there and bless them that they've served for so long on the school
Yes.
board, but that isn't always the greatest thing in the world as well. So there's drawbacks and benefits to both, and I think that having a new, fresh voice in there is the only way that we can continue to help push this district forward.
Something we have to remember, like I said, they're the governing body of our school district. They're all elected officials. We don't want any type of group of elected officials at any level of government to ever operate as a team or as a group. You always want individual thought. You always want debate happening at any level of government. You're never going to get the best idea floated and the best idea passed if there's never any debate. If there's no discourse on the topics at hand, if we're just voting everything through, it's yes, 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 because that's how it always has been, that's dangerous. It's very dangerous, and it can hurt any community, any school district, any group, any constituency group. And that's what's happened in our school district for years. And we're at risk of it happening again if the right people aren't elected come this November.
Right. And why do you feel that this environment has been here for so long? Why is this yes environment sort of taken place here?
I can, if you don't mind me jumping on this, I think it's something that you see, not just in our district, but it is a major problem in our district. It's, we saw it a few days ago with the primary. The turnout is extremely low. And I think that something we saw that we were able to do was energize people that have never been energized about the school board or about local politics or about the primary process.
Absolutely.
Some people don't even know there's an election in May.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's important that, you continue to energize people about that. And because people haven't been energized and because the same people have been voting over and over again and making the decisions, you start to see those people that make those same decisions for the board.
We're fortunate enough to be a part of a wave, or our generation as a whole, that's finally paying attention to politics as a whole. Growing up, I saw, and just through my studies, that there's always been a group of people that have followed politics and been aware, but it's never been the masses. I think with the current state of politics at the federal level, over the past year and a half with the highly contested presidential election, we've just seen so many more people get involved. So now you're finally starting to see more individual thought come out, which is different than years past, and that's why you've always had those same people on there and always the same thing going through. I think change is coming, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yes.
Okay, so there seems to be this lack of information about exactly what the school board is, what they're passing, when they're passing things, and it seems that you guys feel that a lot of this is the lack of transparency from the school board. But how can we get the community and the students to break down these barriers that have been put in place?
And that was one of our major parts of our platform. We really want to reestablish community support in our schools. This was something I talked a lot about with voters. When I knocked on the door and I talked to them, I said, we really need to get you guys back in our schools, because something I witnessed over my 4 years in high school was a slow divide developed between our schools and community. But I tell those community members, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that it happened.
Right.
I blame it on district leadership and their ineffective communication. Things like being in high school, being the past 4 years, I was witness to the lack of community support, but that leads to so many other things. It leads to increased pride in an entire school district. It leads to low morale. And then that leads to discipline problems. That leads to lack of effort on both the student and staff end. And that's dangerous. And again, that's another thing that's dangerous. And it's happening right now, and no one's too concerned about it. No one's talking about it enough.
Right.
And another way to echo part of the question about how we saw that you can kind of break down the lack of understanding was we were very forward with what was going on. We were very forward with everyone about what was happening at meetings, making it available for voters to give us questions if they couldn't make it to a meeting, because over the course of this long drawn-out budget process, because it takes a while, there's a few emergency and special meetings that had to be held, and they have to give, there's very limited time they have to tell the public about what's going, or when that's going to happen. So we would know immediately and make that available for people to communicate via us with the school board, because we think that, when the residents and students and staff and everyone know what's going on at these meetings, then people will start to ask the right questions. People will start to expect more out of their elected officials. People will start to expect debate, and that's important.
Right.
Just a reminder to the community, the board is always saying that they want more people to come out to their meetings. We don't know how true that is, but this is just a reminder to the community that the board always has the same dates times in a month for the meetings. The second to last Monday is the work session, and the last Monday of the month is always their regular board meeting. So, if a person in the community wants to be more aware, the first step is always coming to those meetings. So that's just good to keep in the back of your head.
Absolutely. So it seems like communication and participation are huge parts of your platform. What other issues are really important to you?
Some things we really focus on are we really want to update our curriculum and make sure we're offering the most effective curriculum to our students. I think I got a terrific education here at the NASD School District, and on top of that, you learn so much more because you're getting real life experiences, because the high school here specifically is literally a melting pot, filled with students from all different walks of life, from different economic, racial, and socioeconomic backgrounds, and they're all in here at once, and you're learning a lot of life skills. But yes, you are getting a good education, but can we make it better? Is there room for improvement? Yes. We really want to start to establish a strong computer science program here at the high school that would start in the middle school level. We're forced to teach for the tests a lot
Yes.
Here in the high school, but are there still other areas that we can improve, like our electives, for example? Can we upgrade them to make sure they're in line with current and popular degrees and careers today? Yes, those are areas that we can update and fix.
And echoing that completely with computer science. Technology and computer science is a word that a lot of candidates throw around. It's a word that a lot of people throw around saying that they can institute in their school. We have a developed plan for implementation that would be low cost to taxpayers because of creative ways that you can teach that. It also would limit stress on teachers within the classroom of teaching that, because there's tons of outlets that make it easy for teachers to monitor and help learn, while they might not know everything that the students are getting to themselves, which will be helpful. So not only that, but it allows a teacher in the classroom to continue to learn as they're on the job as well. And I think that, it's always something that's been thrown around over the past 5-10 years. You've heard, let's teach code in classrooms, and
Right.
you do it once every day when it's like code day or whatever. But I think that we can really teach that and help students be interested in that, because there are degrees out there for that. But it's really awesome and really cool that students could learn that at a very low cost to taxpayers and very limited effort on our school district's part. They just haven't looked into it properly yet.
And another issue we campaigned on heavily and was very transparent about with the community is us favoring lowering the property tax rate in our school district. Right now, the property tax rate is too much of a burden on our district residents, and specifically our senior citizen community. I mean, they just cannot bear the current property tax rate, and we're going to see it raised again in June, and they just can't bear it. I mean, people are moving out of our district because it is so high. I talked to more people than I would like that have told me they're planning on moving because they cannot pay school district property taxes. That should not exist. That should not be a problem. And I understand we do not get adequate funding from our state and federal government, but I also understand that we engage in way too much frivolous spending here on the local level, and there's things we can do about that. And I believe with a fresh set of eyes and a fresh voice that I could be a big help to helping bring down that property tax rate and reining it in.
And going off the budget, we are young, and a lot of times people say, how do you know anything about that? I can assure you that we have both spent countless hours looking over the budget, not just at the overall numbers, the buzz numbers that people say, looking at each level of spending at every school and what it's being spent on and things like that. And we see where cuts can be made, we see where creative solutions can be found, and we see where everyone can be happy, both students, teachers, and taxpayers. And at the end of the day, I think that's what a good set of eyes can do.
Yep.
And I think that is kind of, part of the problem with everyone just approving things, is they don't realize they're approving things every year that we might not need. And I think that that's important. And also another going off of that is really making sure that we invite local business back into NARSD. NARSD used to be a thriving area, and it is coming back. It's starting to come back, which is awesome. We're starting to see new places start there, new businesses come in, and that's important too, to helping increase the community support and a bunch of other things. So we're going to continue to try and find those outlets, those public-private partnerships that are going to help our school district. And we're young, we're go-getters. We're going to be able to get those in our schools, and that's something that people that haven't been here, that have been around for a long time, don't always go out and do, and that's something that John can definitely get done.
Yep, don't write us off or don't underestimate us because we're young. I mean, Drew's an economics major at University of Pennsylvania, and I'm a political science major at Temple, so I've been exposed to some economics too. So we understand this stuff, it's not over our head, and that's definitely important to note.
Absolutely. So it seems that a lot of what our districts push is this idea that charter schools, we put a lot of our funding towards these charter schools. Is that something that you guys agree with and are trying to fix?
Look, I believe that we cannot take away a parent's right to choose where they send their students. I believe it always comes down to the parent, and it's always going to be their choice where to send it. But I do not support charter schools as an idea. Private and parochial schools are different because their families are paying for that. The school district isn't paying for that. The school district is paying for charter schools, though. And when it costs $14,000 for the district to send a NASD student to a charter school and $30,000 for a NASD student who requires a special education curriculum, that's something we have to pay attention to, and that's something I can't really support if it's taking so much money away from us.
And largely that money that's spent, there's no body that's overseeing what exactly that's being spent on, and there's no checks and balances on that charter school. So, and one way you can counteract that is not just by getting rid of charter schools completely, is by increasing community support again in our town, getting people back involved with our schools, because then people don't want to leave. And if you can make the community better, if you can make the education system better, then people aren't going to be sending their kids to these other schools, and we'll ease that taxpayer burden that we're spending on sending these kids to charter schools all over.
Yep.
Absolutely.
You want to lower taxes, things like that, you have to work on.
Right. So the primary election just recently happened. Can you walk me through the process of leading up to that and then actually the results that happened?
Yeah, so I want to get a message out there, and I want to explain this whole process. So when you're running for school board, and most judicial races in Pennsylvania are allowed to what's called cross-file. So no matter your party, Democrat or Republican, you can petition to appear on both the Democratic and Republican ballot.
Okay.
So that's what we did. Then there are other things that are happening. Parties that endorse candidates.
Right.
We were not endorsed by the Democratic Party. Some candidates were. So at that point, when we saw that we were not going to be endorsed by either political party, and we were still cross-filed, to me that said we had to run a nonpartisan independent campaign.
Right.
If I was endorsed by the Democratic Party, I would have dropped from the Republican ballot, because that would have made no sense for me to be endorsed by a political party but still appear on another political party's ballot. That would have been wrong. That would have been wrong. So that didn't happen to us, so we did stay on both. So then we did run that nonpartisan campaign, while some of our opponents were endorsed by the Democratic Party and some were endorsed by the Republican Party, all while most of them were still cross-filed. So when that happens, things become very political, and that's not good, because the school board is no place for politics.
Right.
It never was, and it never should be. But unfortunately, the endorsement process makes things very political, and you end up going against political machines on both sides. One side more than the other, but still, it happens on both sides. So it's hard to get that independent voice out there. But we still tried, and we still were successful. So this primary happened on Tuesday, and we came up short on the Democratic side. The 4 endorsed Democratic candidates did win.
Right.
But on the Republican side, we did manage to secure a slot that will push us on to November.
Right.
So that means my name in November will appear under the Republican ballot. Does that mean I'm a Republican? Does that mean that a lot of things will change for us? No. It doesn't matter what my name appears under on the ballot in November. It doesn't matter if it says Democrat, Republican, Green, Constitution, Independent. It doesn't matter, because the school board should never be a place for politics anyways. So I still hope people voters in the area still choose the best candidate come this November and recognize that the school board is no place for politics.
And going off the whole endorsement process, to explain that to individuals a little bit more, that's part of the reason too there isn't a diversity of opinion on the school board. When they endorse, the endorsed candidates normally win, and that continues to push the machine along and chug along and keep it going and allow for no debate, no discourse or anything like that. If you are curious as a taxpayer or voter who does do this endorsement process, some are elected positions, others are appointed. So I'll let you decide how democratic that is.
There's a lot of money involved here on the local level. You would think there's not. I mean, we ran probably for the most local office that exists, your school board, and you would think that maybe it's going to require a little money, maybe a few $100. That's not that much. But when you start saying that it's thousands of dollars, it's alarming. It's very alarming, and you realize, wow, that's literally a political machine we're going against. While they really only want things to go their way, and while they really don't want things to change. And if you try to be that voice of change, get ready for a fight because they're not going to like it.
Right. And do you guys find that even after the election process, the party divide is still there within the school board?
So I don't think most candidates that are elected to the school board come on there with a specific Democratic or Republican set of ideals. But we can't ignore that candidates who were just received all this money from those political organizations, what are they just going to forget about them when they're elected? We can't forget that. So it's always going to be in the back of their mind who helped them along the way. Money says a lot and money does a lot. And I'm glad our money only came from individuals who supported us.
Absolutely.
Because we'll never be affected by any outside political organization.
Right. So there is the next election coming up in November, correct? And you said you'll be on the Republican ballot. So how will you guys continue through this campaigning process until that point?
Nothing's changed. We're continuing to run an independent, nonpartisan campaign. That's key. That's key. We're not going to change our platform. We're not going to alter our platform just because we're on the Republican side. And the same thing if our name was just under the Democratic ballot. Like I've said, a bunch of times, the school board's no place for politics.
Right.
So we're going to continue to be that nonpartisan voice, and hopefully enough people will choose us to be the candidate that serves them on their school board.
Absolutely. And how can people reach out and contact you guys if they want more information, they want to support you guys?
Yeah, I'll take that one because I guess that is my job as campaign manager. If you would like to read more about our platform and more about how you can get involved, you should visit johnmaxey2017.com. Or if you would like to email us personally and we can chat with you, hello@votejohnmaxey.com. There's also, you can follow us on Twitter at johnmaxey2017, Facebook at johnmaxey2017, as well as on Medium at johnmaxey2017. So those are great outlets where you can find more about our campaign. You can contact us if you would love to get involved. We're always looking for volunteers to help out. We're always looking for people that are passionate about both Norristown and about that young voice getting out there and changing the game.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Things are going to be very fluid over the next few months. We don't want anyone to think that just because we didn't win on both ballots or we didn't win on the Democratic ballot that we're done.
Right.
We are continuing through November. We're continuing to run that nonpartisan campaign. So continue to pay attention to us, follow our stuff, get in contact with us, and we're going to go from here. But not much has changed.
And if people would like to speak to you in person, will you guys be at the school board meetings?
Oh, we're there. I'm there at every single one. Drew is at the majority of them too. I'll be at the one this coming Monday. It's actually here in the high school in the cafeteria because they're going to be honoring our retirees. But this would be a good meeting to come to. They're going to be discussing some hot topic issues. And also the June meetings would be great to come to. But
Absolutely.
Yeah, they can always catch me at the school board meetings. I'm at a lot of community events. We were at the Carver Center the other weekend reading to district students. This weekend I'll be around at West Norton Day. I'll be at a few 5Ks this weekend. So yeah, catch us out there if you can't reach out to us online.
What time is the school board meeting on Monday? Just so everyone knows.
Actually don't think it starts. I think it starts earlier than normal time, at 6 or 6:30. I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure it's 6:30 though, but I would encourage everyone to check on the district website.
And is that how people can find out when the school board meetings are?
Well, usually, when they're on there at the right time, that you can find out about them. Other times you have to go through other ways to find out about them, but yes, normally on the district website.
Okay.
If you would like to know exactly when a meeting is, regardless of when the district publishes it, you can follow us on the social media.
We'll tell you.
And we will make sure that you have access to when you want to go to a meeting. So for anyone, just a reminder, that's Monday, May 22nd, around 6 at the high school will be the next school board meeting, just if anyone is listening or after the fact. So.
Fantastic. So throughout this process, you know, you guys are young and you guys have used that to your advantage, it seems, as a positive thing. But what have you learned through this experience?
I'll let you start with that.
Yeah, we've learned a lot. So that was a good thing that everyone liked to tell us, oh, you're young, you'll learn a lot. And they meant that in, I'm sure, the best way possible, that you'll learn, you know, how to run a campaign, how campaign finance works, all these different forms, how to knock on doors. And we learned that. And honestly, for the most part, I encourage anyone that wants to get involved to do that, because it's not as hard as people make it out to be. I think what I personally learned more was what's wrong with local politics. And that's something I think I'd echo and learn more, and that's why I encourage, and that's what's making me encourage more people to get involved with it, is because the money that is involved, the partisanship that is involved. I mean, this is a school board election. We are talking about kids and their education. We are not talking about the Affordable Care Act. And I think that the partisanship that is involved is wrong. I think that there is some pettiness in local campaigns and some deceitfulness on other people's parts as well. So I think that, you know, it's not this nice little thing, walk that you go on and, you know, it's a local politics, everyone's lovey-dovey. It's not the best thing, but you learn a lot and you really are doing it for the right reasons. And that's why I encourage people to get involved.
I like to say we witnessed more than we learned, because, you know, when we say we learn, then that might imply that we're going to act that same way.
Right.
So,
That's true.
yeah, I think we definitely witnessed a lot more, and a lot of it came as a shock, how much money is involved, how much partisanship's involved, you know. It was scary to learn, and it was disheartening at times, very disheartening at times. It's not, you know, I got interested in politics a few years ago, and I've been excited over it, and I always knew when it came to things that were more politicized, you know, you were going to have stuff like that. When you were, you know, when it comes to selecting your president, selecting your senator, selecting your congressperson, things are obviously going to involve more money and more politics. But when I thought it was, you know, about local politics and especially a school board race, I didn't think it would be so crazy. And so that was kind of disheartening to me, especially as a political science student. You know, I'm sitting in class learning about all these theories and stuff like that, and then I'm out in the real world actually experiencing it. And I was just very taken back, and it still hits me, and I'm just sad it's that way. But we're here writing our own story, creating our own path, hopefully creating some change. Hopefully local politics, especially in Norristown, especially Montgomery County, does not stay this way. I think we really have the chance here to create some change. And we'll see what happens as we continue forward.
Yeah, we're excited about the prospect of changing those things that we witnessed that were so disheartening to us, and I think that we really can.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that oftentimes there's a stereotype that politicians are deceitful. I feel like you guys are trying to break that down.
Definitely.
How do you plan, if you are elected a school board representative, to break that down?
Starting with, I mean, we were the only school board candidate during the primary campaign that reached out to both Democrats and Republicans. I mean, even the endorsed Republicans didn't knock on Republican doors. So I'm the only candidate along with my team that only knocked on Republican and Democratic doors.
Right.
That says a lot right there. I mean, we're not going to only focus on one party and, you know, talk to them. We're going to talk to everyone and bring everyone in, make them realize that this is a nonpartisan thing. You know, if you want to play politics, do that on a larger scale, on a national level, but don't do it for the school board.
Absolutely.
And I think also after elected, hopefully John will be on the board and making the information that they're talking about available to everyone. If you can't make it to a meeting, he will make sure you know what they talked about.
Yeah.
Because if you've ever ventured onto our board docs and looked at meeting minutes from a school board, they're hard to decipher about what actually went on, and that's wrong because they're holding a meeting to talk about things that affect everyone in the district, and you have the right to know whether or not you could make it or not.
Right.
Yes, I definitely agree.
Absolutely. So what are your future plans, whether elected or not, at a larger scale?
So I'll start with smaller scale because then I'll work up. Over the summer, things are going to be pretty quiet. Things are going to be fluid, but it's just going to be planning mostly.
Right.
Then in the fall, you'll see things heat up again with the campaign. But I'm going to continue my studies at Temple in the fall. Drew's going to continue his studies, I think.
Yeah, I will.
All right.
That's great.
At Penn. And then we'll see what happens with the election. This election can actually influence of what I do in the future. I think I want to go to law school, but I don't know at this point because I want to see what happens with this. And this has definitely altered my view of what I want to do with my future. I always thought I might want to be involved with politics forever, but I'm not as sure as I was beforehand.
Right.
And I think when elected, John will also be very active in lobbying for more money from the federal and state level. As a young person on the school board, he's going to be active in doing that, and he's going to understand what the needs are because we aren't always going to be getting adequate funding from the federal level. It looks like it's going to more be coming from the state level, and we need, as a district that has a lot of issues, we need someone who understands them and is going to work to find creative solutions and going to work hard. I mean, you got to get up there, you got to knock on doors in Harrisburg, you got to talk to people up there.
That's a
and
good point, yeah. And a younger voice can sometimes be paid attention to more. It's going to be a legitimate voice. I mean, between the two of us, we do have the contacts that we can mobilize to actually be a legitimate lobbying group to get more funding for our school district. We say we're doing a lot of that now, but it's not true. We're not doing it as forcefully as they claim.
Right.
So don't be deceived.
As recent alums, it seems like you guys have a connection to Norristown. Do you guys plan to continue that connection as you go into your adult lives?
Undoubtedly, my entire life, I hope to be forever connected with Norristown. I love not only the school district, but the entire community, and it will forever be a part of me. It will forever be a part of me. It's shaped and formed me into the man I am today, and I think Drew will say the same, but yeah, no matter where I end up in life, Norristown will always have made me.
Yeah, wherever I go, Norristown will always be a part of what I did. And I will never forget the education I got in the Norristown Area School District, the community I found in Norristown, and everything that came along with it. So Norristown will always be a part of my journey.
That's fantastic, guys. Do you want to one more time give the information to contact?
Yeah, so if you want to visit our website, learn more about us, www.johnmaxey2017.com. Email us at hello@votejohnmaxey.com. Follow us on Twitter at johnmaxey2017, as well as on Facebook, johnmaxey2017. And get in contact with us in whatever way you can. We'll be around. We'll be at community events, and we'll be there to talk to anyone. We do not stop anyone from being able to tell us their views and talk about their issues.
That's great. Thank you guys for joining me.
I just want to say a few thank yous before we wrap up.
Absolutely.
I mean, starting with Drew first and foremost, who was that campaign manager throughout all of this and really kept me on track and the campaign on track. I mean, he did an amazing amount of work, and I can't even describe how much he did, but it needs to be acknowledged. Also, his mother, Mrs. Laurie Baltrus, who served as our treasurer for my candidates committee, she did an amazing amount of work and was committed from this idea from the start. So I would like to thank her and the rest of Drew's family. Also my family, my mom, dad, and sister who, were supporting me from the very beginning when I wasn't sure of this. They helped me through this whole thing, and they were out working the polls for me the other day. Every person who contributed to this campaign, from our smallest to our largest contributor, thank you very much. We'll be following up with you very shortly. Thank you to all our supporters who helped out at the polls the other day. Thank you to everyone who voted for us. And I also want to give a special thank you to each and every single staff member in this district who has been very supportive of me from the beginning. And so I really am appreciative of that and thank them.
That's wonderful. And anything else you'd like to add?
That's it.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. All right, guys, I was just talking to Drew Baltrus and John Maxey, and if you guys want to find out more information, you can go onto their website, John Maxey's, JohnMaxey. So if you want that information, go ahead and follow them on Twitter, Facebook, their website. So that was some wonderful information. Wish them the best of luck in November. Now let's go over and talk to, I believe, Corinne.